Welcome to the September 1st meeting of the Oceanside City Council. I'd like to go ahead and call this meeting to order. It's a very exciting day tonight, or today, because we have OHS in the house. Yes. So, Mr. Novato, do we have any comments from you regarding the meeting?
Yes, we do. We have our usual meeting advisory. If you're on Zoom and wish to speak on an item, you must have registered to speak with the clerk's office prior to 4:00 p.m. today. If you are in attendance and wish to speak on an item, please register to speak with one of our staff members in the lobby prior to when public comment is called for the item. If you have material to distribute to the council, please hand it to me and I will distribute it to the council for you. And we'll go ahead and go into the roll call. Mayor Sanchez.
Here.
Deputy Mayor Keim. Oh, Councilmember Jensen. Here. Councilmember Rodriguez.
Here.
Councilmember Weiss.
Here.
Thank you, and if you could please all stand for the invocation. Today we have Pastor Munyoki Mowa from New Song Community Church. Welcome, Pastor.
Thank you for having me, and thank you for the mayor's office for inviting me here. Shall we pray? Father God, we thank you for this day. We thank you for the group of people that you have gathered in this room. Lord, we pray for unity to befall each person in this room that is helping make decisions for our city. Lord, we thank you that you have allowed us to live in such a wonderful place as this. Lord, I pray that wisdom would befall every single person in this room, from those who are speaking to the students that are here that are working through school, to the mayor and the council people. Lord, may this place be known as a place of peace, a place of unity, and Lord, may prosperity come not just to those in the high places, but also in the low places as well. We pray this in Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. Please remain standing and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. Ready, begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Well, we're going to first start off with proclamations and presentations. I'd like to invite, Pet of the Month is first on the list, so I'd like to invite San Diego Humane Society and SPCA. Come on down. And with your friend, of course.
Ooh, hello, everybody. Thank you, council members, for having us here and for your support of the San Diego Humane Society. As you can see, my name is Kelly, and as you can see, I have this handsome man. His name is Diesel. He's 13 years young. He was an owner surrender because his owner passed away. So he has a lot more life. He's really sweet. He's really affectionate. He loves people. He's trying to get to everybody right now. He would love to come to say hi, but we don't have enough time for that. But he's really looking for a mellow home for somebody that just wants to hang out on the couch with them and watch Netflix. So he's available at our Oceanside campus, and his adoption fee is $30 because he is a senior. And just to let you know, we are open to the public now, thank goodness. We're open to the public, and our hours are Tuesday through Sunday from 10 to 6 for adoption hours. So September is actually National Disaster Preparedness Month. So it's really important that people prepare emergency kits, especially with all the fires that we have going on right now. And make sure you have collars, your IDs are updated, your animals are microchipped. If you don't have a microchip, you can go to any one of our campuses and purchase one for $25. It's super cheap. And of course, it's definitely gonna get you your pet home if anything does happen. We have a lot more tips on our website on how you can plan to start to get ahead, because you never know what's gonna happen. So right now is Clear the Shelters Month. It's actually running until September 19th, so it's gonna be all month long. Our adoption fees are exactly the same. There are no waive fees like there were in the prior years. We're doing this for the month long just because we really, really want to get people to adopt our animals so we can clear our shelter and have more pets come in that need the help that we can help and find homes for them and do everything we need to do. With that being said, if anybody loves small pets, we have so many small pets right now at our Oceanside campus, actually at all of our campuses. With that being said, like rabbits, guinea pigs, mice, rats, whatever you please. So we do have a lot of those available for adoption. We also are hiring a lot of positions at our Oceanside campus and at our other campuses, along with taking a lot of volunteer roles. Volunteers are really, really important because they help us do our daily routines, they help us feed, they help us clean, they help us socialize the animals, give them love. So that is super duper important. So again, we're looking for hiring staff and volunteers. And actually, that's all I've got today. So does anybody have any questions?
Well, thank you very much. Does anybody have any questions? Anybody in the audience looking for a pet? See her after the meeting.
Thank you,
Thank you very
everybody.
much. So we've got OHS in the house, like I said. And I'd like to ask the chair team to come on down. Give us a little introduction here. OHS. So you can use the entire well here, and that's where the cameras are, so we want to see you. So if you have a cheer for us to get us going on recognizing these excellent teams. Thank you. Well, the first team that we're going to bring up, because we're going to bring you up one at a time, is the OHS girls basketball. Come on down, girls. We also have a coach. Come on down.
I'm actually on behalf of my daughter.
What was that?
Actually, my daughter can't be here, so she's in Virginia, so
Okay, well, come on down, come on down. Yay. So I want to say, I have something here that I want to read, but this is, tonight we're giving you, on behalf of the City of Oceanside, a certificate of excellence. And I want to say this, and thank you so much for helping me with the words. Brad, the Oceanside High School girls basketball did something that hadn't been accomplished in 112 years. The Pirates, who battled injury, COVID issues, and an abrupt coaching resignation, advanced to the CIF finals for the first time in more than a century, before losing in a heartbreaking final to earn the Division IV runner-up trophy. So give it up for these girls. So we have, it was Coach Victoria Stewart, represented by new Coach Brian Burnett. And then we have the players Alexis Dyer, Giovanna Lopez, Cyan McBride, Reina Alamillo, Rosalind Soto, Olivia Gillespie, I'm so excited. Cece McBride, Bailey, okay, Bailey. Say it. Yulin Tony, okay, you should see how it's spelled. Nevea Mageo, Alana Douglas, and Talia Thompson. So I'd like to hand the mic to the coach, who can tell us a little bit more about the terrific things our girls were able to accomplish for the first time in 112 years. Thank you.
First time for these girls in 112 years. I just want to give you guys kudos for all your hard work and effort. I know you guys, I just met you, and I can see the consistency and the effort that you put in, and I just hope that it continues this year, and I know that great things are ahead of you. So, Coach, yes, ma'am.
If I can hand this to you.
No worries.
Okay, and if we could get a picture. And we're so proud of these girls, right? First time in 112 years. Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, girls. Next up, we got the boys basketball. Come on, OHS boys basketball. OHS, we are the best. So boys basketball. Under first-year coach Ryan Smith, the Oceanside boys basketball team broke a 15-year drought to tie for the Avocado League championship. Let's give it up for the boys basketball. So we have Coach Ryan Smith, and we've got players Jeremiah Goodwin, Kekoa Pickett, okay, Devin Dunn, Lonald Springs, Aaron Threadgill, Michael Hardyway, Cam Beecham, Ben Camargo, Bo Dubois, Malik Falk, Jermaine Wilkerson, Jacob Harris, and is it JJ Spencer? JJ Spencer. So we're so proud of them. Give it up for them, and I'm going to give the mic over to Coach.
Thanks. Just super proud of them for the effort they put in. Obviously, it was a crazy, chaotic year. I don't think a lot of people thought we'd be where we were, and they did a tremendous job on the court, and we're going to do it again next year. So it'll be a good time.
Thank you. Do you have girls too, by the way? No? Do you have girls? Did you get girls?
Yeah.
The last thing we're going to do.
Oh, down, no, not
Yes,
yet.
okay, thank you. Thank you so much. You guys are fun. Okay, one more team. Boys swim team. Come on up, guys. Boys swim team. Okay, for these guys, it took nearly 4 decades, but the Pirates boys swim team was finally able to hang another banner in the OHS gymnasium by winning the Avocado League title, the school's first since 1984. That's 37 years, guys. So we have Coach Kelsey Emmerich Hunt and Assistant Coach Philip Pullen. And the athletes that we have here tonight, Adrian Alcocer, Simon Atkinson, Charlie Bowman, Dylan Crooks, Antonio Day, Bo Dubois. That's the second time I'm saying that name. Bo, wow, you're phenomenal here. Aka Fuimano, Kaleo Hernandez, Cody Lovegren, Nathan Mollenkamp, Blake Munoz, Logan Munoz. Are you related? Brothers? Wow. And Jacob Wilson. Let's give it up for these guys. So, Coach, I'm handing the mic over to you.
So I think, the biggest thing, all of our students at OHS and our student athletes had to overcome a lot of adversity last year with COVID and distance learning. The hard work that these kids put in with school being pushed back and coming back and not going back and being multi-sport athletes and honor students, it just was phenomenal to see what they could accomplish. They worked hard, they compromised, they communicated, and it just was a real pleasure to watch them succeed. We took quite a few to CIF for the boys team. We also took girls relays for the swim team too to CIF. So to go from not having a season to Charlie Bowman finishing second in individual events in CIF and all of our relays placing top 16 was pretty great. So, and I actually have something for them. I have patches that were made for you guys for your jackets or your frames, whatever, but Avocado League swim patches to give you.
Oh, wow, that's fantastic. So I want to say that, and I guess that having Aquatic Center finally open last Saturday is going to help make this not just a one-time thing in 37 years, but we're going to continue to see champions here. So let's give it up to them again, for them again. And if we can have a picture. It's up to you. Thank you. Can I shake your hands? First of all, thank you, Coach. Thank you. Thank you. Congratulations on two. Thank you so much. Congratulations on two. And could we have the girls back up for a picture? Because, I mean, look at these girls. Weren't they great? Come on, girls. Girls cheer. Thank you, and thank you for that great cheer. Thank you. Thank you. Wow, it's so exciting to see so much talent in Oceanside. Okay, so we're now in closed session report. Mr. Mullen?
Thank you. Council met in closed session earlier this afternoon to discuss the status of negotiations with the Oceanside Police Officers Association. There's no action under the Brown Act to report. That was the only closed session item.
Thank you. So we now have consent calendar items, which are items 3 through 13.
Move approval.
Motion for approval, second.
Item number 11 was pulled by a member of the public.
Item number 11, okay. Okay, so we have a motion and a second for balance, and if you could register a no vote for me on number 13, let's vote.
Motion approved 5-0, except for a no vote from Mayor Sanchez on item number 13.
Thank you. So number 11 is approval of a professional services agreement with Recon Environmental of San Diego in the amount of $288,120 to conduct biological monitoring and reporting services for Phase 1 and 2 remowing and invasive plant removal within the San Luis Rey River Flood Control Project, and to provide technical services for the preparation and renewal of regulatory permits and authorization for the city manager to execute the agreement upon receipt of all supporting documents. And we have a member of the public who has requested that that item be pulled.
Correct. And the only speaker we have on this item is Carolyn Kramer, and she is on Zoom right now.
Thank you.
So Carolyn, whenever you're ready.
I'm ready. Are you ready?
Yes, I am.
Good evening, Council and Mayor Sanchez. I just have a couple of questions regarding the mowing. Why is it mowed instead of cleared, for one thing? The San Luis Rey River is definitely a sand source for our beaches, and since we are experiencing a loss of sand, is there somewhere this project can be tied into getting more sand on our beaches? I know that into the year 2000, I think that's the year, Peter, you would know more than me, that the detention basins were built in the San Luis Rey River to slow the river down. I think that's the way it was. But it also traps sand. And I did see a recent video on Facebook lately up the San Luis Rey River, and there are quite a few sandbars that are basically little islands in the river. So that means there's a lot of sand that's been trapped up there. And then I also, there's something else that's been bothering me because I haven't been able to find anything out about it, is I was told that part of the San Luis Rey River is being dammed upstream for irrigation, which also slows the flow of our water. And when you slow the flow of the water, you stop the flow of the sand coming to our beaches. So is there any way that we can recoup any of the sand with this project to get it on our beaches? And that's basically my question. I would like to be able to get some sand out of this project for our beaches. So thank you for hearing me. Bye-bye.
And that concludes the public comment on item number 11.
Do we have staff on this?
Honorable Mayor, City Council members, Nathan Mertz, Public Works Division Manager. To answer Mrs. Kramer's question, essentially mowing is clearing the river. We have a specific criteria that we need to meet when we mow the river. The biomass that we leave has to be a certain size, and it's a very small size. We're not leaving chunks of wood and trees. It's basically mulched when we're all done with it. In regards to sediment removal, that is a role that the Army Corps of Engineers needs to take and remove sediment from their project. The project's still an active project. They have not turned the entire project over to the city yet. We only maintain certain components of the project, which is small compared to the rest of it. So they're still responsible for doing any sediment removal if that is needed.
Right, so we're doing a clearing of 173 acres, something like that?
That is correct.
Right. Let's see, Councilmember Weiss.
Do you know when the Corps is currently scheduled to do the sediment removal? I know they reached their 902 limit, but I believe that it was at one point in time scheduled.
Councilmember Weiss, yes, the Army Corps was scheduled to do this several years ago. They ran into contractual issues and their 902 limit, but that was increased through the new Water Resources Development Act that Congress approved last year. And they have reached out to city staff about starting to plan their next project, which is, I think, in the neighborhood of a $20 million project that will include sediment removal and a lot of other improvements to address the next phase of the river project.
Thank you. Move approval.
Okay, there's a motion and a second. Please vote.
Councilmember Weiss?
So, by the way,
Motion approved, 5-0.
Can sand be some of that sand be used for to put on the beach? By the way.
Mayor, yes. Part of the sediment removal project will provide that any beach-eligible sand will be placed on city beaches.
Okay, thank you. Okay. So we do have an advance written request to reserve time for speaking, and that's from Carol Meeks. That's item number 17. I'm skipping over because we do not have any general items.
Is she on Zoom?
Do we have her on Zoom?
We don't see Carol Meeks on Zoom, and if she's out in the lobby, Carol Meeks, we'll check the lobby, but I don't see anybody approaching the podium, and there's no one by that name on Zoom.
Okay, do we have communications from the public regarding items not on this agenda, which is item number 18?
Yes, we do. We have 12 speakers on item number 18, off-agenda items. And our speakers are Peggy Walker, Barbara Gordon, and Sandy Beal. And we have, I believe, Peggy Walker on Zoom, and we are getting her ready. And she will be followed by Barbara Gordon. Mrs. Walker, are you there?
Yes, I'm here. Thank you very much. Mayor Sanchez, that was a wonderful way to start the meeting. Congrats to OHS. That was fun. I'm here on a totally different matter. I'm a public health educator and came to share that September is National Suicide Awareness Month and to share new National Institute of Health survey results of nearly 300,000 young adults. The survey showed the odds of people aged 18 to 35 thinking about suicide were 50% higher among those who used marijuana. The study said mechanisms in the brain dysregulated by marijuana contribute to both suicidal thoughts and violence. It stated that suicide is the leading cause of death among young adults and second leading cause among those 10 to 34. With greater marijuana accessibility now, this is important information, especially in light of a UCSD study just out showing dispensaries lack adequate screening to keep out minors. I know 3 families who lost college-age sons to marijuana-related suicide. Johnny began dabbing at 14. He was intelligent, funny, with a 4-point grade point average and college scholarship. Sadly, he died by suicide at age 19. He couldn't shake addiction. Johnny left a note for his mom saying, "You were right. You told me marijuana would hurt my brain. It ruined my mind and my life," all due to dabbing. And dabbing is the use of high THC concentrates like wax, oil, or butter, and shatter. These concentrates, along with edibles and drinkables, have THC potency as high as 90%. Research shows that potency greater than just 10% can result in psychosis, increased risk of violence, and suicide. Many policymakers are calling for THC potency caps, and I came tonight in the interest of public health and especially to protect young people, to ask you to consider potency caps as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next public comment is from Barbara Green, to be followed by Sandy Beal, to be followed by Shelley Walker. And Barbara Gordon, you're on.
Okay, thank you very much. Again, Barbara Gordon, and I'm here to express my concern as the city looks to continue to expand their marijuana businesses. I'm the adult advisor to a Hispanic youth group, and our teens are always watching what we do. We cannot put more marijuana business into a community and then expect more marijuana use will not occur. Since legalization, the medical community has published thousands of articles related to the harms of marijuana. And Dr. Ronette Lev, who is the chief of emergency department at Scripps Mercy Hospital, she also chairs the Emergency Medicine's Oversight Commission with the San Diego Medical Society. She recently shared her experiences. She goes on to say, the volume of emergency department visits in San Diego related to marijuana has increased 830%. There has been an increase at public perception that marijuana is relatively harmless. But the public's perception is wrong. She says, every day I treat patients with psychosis, anxiety, palpitations, chest pains, all due to marijuana use. I know the city is looking to increase their revenue by allowing the sale of marijuana, but at what cost to the city when you factor in so many things like staff time, to oversee the permitting process, the allocation of law enforcement resources. I know the city of San Diego had to budget $1 million just to manage their cannabis division. Chula Vista had to hire an extra criminal attorney just to handle their marijuana litigations. Please listen to the health professionals who understand the risk of the marijuana policies you're advocating for, instead of listening to the marijuana industry who puts profits over people's health and safety. Thank you very much for letting me speak.
Thank you. Our next public comment is from Sandy Beal, to be followed by Shelley Parker, to be followed by Joe Hill. And Sandy, you're on.
Okay. Honorable Mayor Sanchez and City Council members, I apologize for having to repeat myself once again. Leilani Hines stated that Rancho San Luis Rey had not passed the health and safety inspection yet at the August 24th Housing Commission meeting. As far as I know, Rancho San Luis Rey continues to be non-compliant as of today. Our issue is Star Management started putting the permissive rent increase on our rent statements beginning in July. Many Rancho San Luis Rey homeowners attended the last city council meeting on August 18th, and we thought the city council was listening to us. I reached out to one of the city council members by email last week, but they've not responded. Remember, Rancho San Luis Rey is an over 55 community made up of many retired professionals, veterans, and people with disabilities. Since I am the park representative, I feel it's my duty to keep working to get the answers regarding this important issue. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Our next public comment is from Shelley Parker, to be followed by Joe Hill, to be followed by John Bottorff. And Shelley, you are on.
Yes, good evening, Honorable Mayor and City Council. My name is Shelley Parker. I'm speaking as a homeowner in Rancho San Luis Rey, and I'm going to follow on the heels of Sandy Beal. Today I put some evidence into the city attorney's office or hands about the permissive rent increase that is being charged at Rancho San Luis Rey. I have provided statements before and after the raise, plus a bunch of other information that goes along with it. And we want to support the city in helping us to stop what is going on or to support the decision that is to be made, so that we can actually get a rent statement that is correct and that hopefully Star Management can be stopped doing what they're doing, sanctioned, and possibly fined for charging something that they haven't earned. So thank you very much for your time. Please know that that information has been turned over, and I have received other bits of information that is coming from other residents, and I will be turning over more next week. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next public comment is from Joe Hill, to be followed by John Bottorff, to be followed by Carol Green. And Joe, you are on.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor and City Council members. So a few meetings ago, this council approved a motion from Council members Keim and Weiss to have staff look at transferring sand, which we desperately need on the beach, from El Corazon for a cost of around $1 million. Since I don't believe this requires a coastal commission scoop permit, because we're not going from beach sand to beach, we're going from someplace else to the beach. I was wondering if there was a status update on this project, since it has never been brought up again in all of the meetings and all of the things we've been talking about when we're looking for more sand on the beach. That was it. Thank you very much.
Mr. Millen, can you respond to that question? It's not on, or.
The question from Mr. Hill? I don't have a response. I don't know the answer, but it's not on your agenda, so we can't provide an update.
Right. So does it require a scoop permit to put sand from somewhere else onto the beach? It does, doesn't it?
I honestly don't know the answer to that.
Okay,
I'd have
Ms.
to look
Larson.
into that and get back to you.
Mayor, yes, we do need to have valid permits in order to put sand on the beach. And as you know, we're working on the process to renew those permits, as well as assessing the sand out at El Corazon in furtherance of council's direction.
Right. So there's the answer. It's not on the agenda. We're not going to discuss it, but that's just the factual information for you, Mr. Hill.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. So we do have our advanced request to speak. Carol Meeks, is that correct?
Yeah.
Shall we go?
She is here.
Let's hear from Ms. Meeks.
Okay. And Ms. Meeks, you get 5 minutes.
All right, thank you. Mayor and City Council people, I apologize for being late. Last time we didn't get called for 5 hours, so I thought I had plenty of time to get here. But I'm coming because last time that I was before this board, I requested that the board consider, the council consider safe parking, and there was no response. So I'm coming back this time. I specifically want to poll each and every council person to ask each person if you are in support of the guidelines for safe parking or to establish a safe parking site. I explained last time the difficulty that was being presented to citizens within this city, including many, many seniors that would be forced onto the streets, including grandparents. And I ask that each of you consider the hardships that the ordinance, which prohibits parking from 2 a.m. to 6 a.m., has caused for these individuals and many more. I'm also bringing to your attention that in the state of Washington, before the Supreme Court, a case was heard in which they determined that it was unconstitutional to impound a vehicle and then require excessive fees to get the vehicle back if the individual living in the vehicle was living in the vehicle as their residence. And that is what has been happening in Oceanside. So I'm asking that you would cease that practice of impounding any vehicles in which someone is living, that is their home, that is their residence, and that it is based on what I'm reading from the case in Seattle, Washington, it's considered unconstitutional. So what I'm asking is that the City Council would cease the impounding of vehicles where individuals are living. And I also want to ask each council person if you are in support of a safe parking space in Oceanside. Council member Mr. Weiss, are you in favor of a...
Mayor and council, if I could interject, because this is a non-agenda item, the Brown Act prevents us from deliberating.
Yeah, we can't discuss any issues, ma'am. I thought we can't respond to, we can't have a discussion. So but if you have some information that perhaps we could do really quickly, but not based on some future thing. So no one is willing to state on the record whether or not they're in favor of? That we can't. So how can you? How can it become an item where you can't address in public forum? Once it becomes agendized. So how does it become agendized? Staff brings forward items. So if you'd like, you could speak to the city manager and have that discussion with her about how items are agendized. So it's actually through the departments and the city manager and city attorney. So if the city manager's department or their staff decide they don't want to present it, then there's nothing. So in other words... Why don't you finish your comments, because you do have 5 minutes and you have, what, 2:48 left? All right, I'm just trying to find out how to get an item on the agenda so that the public can know how each of you feels about providing safe parking for the residents. We could have someone from staff talk to you after you finish your speech. And they will tell me how to get it on the agenda? Yes. Okay, and I just have one other question in terms of getting it on the agenda. If the staff determines... I really can't answer any more questions. Why don't you speak to staff? Finish your comments, and then someone from staff will speak with you. Okay, all right. Well, I just want to bring it to your attention that vehicles are being impounded that are residences, and I think I brought that to your attention at the last meeting that I spoke at. So I want to let you know that there's a possibility that you are violating the Constitution by, it's what's called unreasonable fees. So there have been fees in excess of $1,000 for seniors to get their vehicles back, which are in fact their homes. So I want to make the council aware that by doing this, you may be violating the Constitution. So I'm forming a coalition with groups in Oceanside and also bringing some groups from outside of the state and the county. And next time that I come here, we will be coming in force with a number. When I say in force, I don't mean obviously violence or anything. I just mean by numbers to let you know that this is going to be an election issue, that we are going to, so far I've had, I think what now, close to 300,000 views and several thousand, maybe 5,000 comments. So I'm really just getting geared up. So I'd like each of you to know that this is an important matter in your city and it needs to be addressed. So we will be coming back on a meeting in October and having individuals who will be speaking to address this. And I would like to, again, make you aware that I'd like this to be an agenda item for each of you to let the city members, or I should say the voting members of Oceanside, know how you feel about providing a safe parking space for citizens here who are being forced to live on the streets, many of them elderly.
and disabled and veterans. So I think that is really a disgrace. But I'm hoping that if you know better, that you will do better, and that each of you has a conscience, and that you really are decent people and simply don't have all the facts. And that once you have all the facts, you will come to a humane decision and will in fact be the leaders that you were voted to be. And I think that you're capable of being, and maybe leaders within this country on this issue. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And Ms. Meeks, you reside in Carlsbad, is
I
that
do.
correct?
I
Okay,
do.
thank you.
That's my next, my next safe parking after we get one in Oceanside.
Once you started.
Thank you. And Mr. Muller, did you want to say anything about our commitment to addressing homeless issues? Or is that something
Well,
you want to
again,
bring up later?
I think you'll be receiving a letter from me. I have received a letter from some advocates on this issue, and I'll be copying the council on our response. I don't think I need to tell the council all the money that you've spent on the various initiatives in the last several months, but they include our emergency shelter voucher program, our sobering center, your commitment to build an emergency shelter on Oceanside Boulevard and the renovation of that building, along with many other programs. And there are occupants of recreational vehicles who are taking advantage of those services. So I will be replying to that letter that I forwarded to you this week.
Thank you. And Mr. Rodriguez, excuse me, Councilmember Rodriguez, did you want to?
Yeah, just quick question. For the public in the future, a lot of the ideas that I bring to council as council agenda items I don't dream them up. It's because the public brings them to me, and I appreciate that. So Carol Meeks wrote an advance request to speak on safe parking for vehicles, which was a part of the public notice, which is required by the Brown Act. How are we not capable of deliberating or having a discussion? I'm not saying give staff direction, but I believe we're well within our rights to deliberate on a publicly noticed item provided by the public on any topic.
Well, our agenda provides on that issue, and I think it's right out of our city code, that no action will be taken by the city council, HDB, CDC, et cetera, on matters in this category. And that category includes both 17 and 18, unless it's determined that an emergency exists. And so that is an implementation of the Brown Act on our own city code requirements. Now, you can ask clarifying questions, but what she asked is for you each to take a public position, which would be inappropriate.
I understand that.
Yeah.
I'm just saying from the standpoint of I don't want to, I appreciate the public coming in and bringing up concerns on various topics, and I don't mind having, somewhat of a discussion to help get people in the right direction. But with respect to, she left already. I was going to tell her Jewish Family Services is actually a nonprofit that helps support and manage and fund, which is the key word in all of this, fund safe parking lots. And they do have at least a couple, I think, left that we can refer any of these individuals that need those services, but she left.
Thank you very much. So let's resume. We still have 15 minutes until the 6 o'clock time, certain items. So can we resume?
Yes, we'll go back to John Bottorff to be followed by Carol Green, and then Katie Taylor, who I believe is in person. And we'll go off with Mr. Bottorff. You're on.
Awesome. Thank you guys very much. My name is John Bottorff with CleanItForKids.org. I attended last night's meeting on the amphitheater and Junior Seau Center. It was a great meeting. I hope all of you who were not there will watch the recording. It was really good. As I said last night in my comment, public spaces must stay public, and the city must increase developer fees to at least the same level as Carlsbad. These fees can pay for more community centers, parks, and public spaces for Oceanside residents. This revenue can also pay to renovate and revitalize downtown and the harbor, including a free electric trolley to increase access to our vital public spaces while reducing traffic and air pollution. Speaking of air pollution, I would also again ask the City Council to remove the fire rings at the beach and harbor. Fires are burning throughout our state. There's absolutely no reason to allow recreational fires. Wood smoke has been shown to be more hazardous than cigarette smoke. Children are smoking when you light a campfire. So why are we forcing children and vulnerable people to smoke, to be exposed to toxic air pollution? So please, I ask the City Council to protect our children and remove the fire rings. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next public comment is from Carol Green, to be followed by Katie Taylor, to be followed by Joyce Canine. Hopefully I'm pronouncing that correctly. And so we go to Miss Carol Green. You're on.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor and City Council members. As you may know, today is September 1st, which starts the National Suicide Prevention Month. I want to remind you that the people that die by suicide are some of our young, brightest people, and we need to protect their lives. A recent article in the Journal of American Medical Association Psychiatry, dated July 21st, 2021, had this title, Development over Time of the Population Attributed to Cannabis Use Disorder in Schizophrenia. This is done by Danish researchers, and Denmark has a national healthcare registry which enables the researchers to study disease diagnosis in the entire population. They looked at the diagnosis of schizophrenia and cannabis use disorder between 1972 and 2016, and they found that the proportions of cause of schizophrenia associated with cannabis use disorder increased 3 to 4 times in the past decade. They noted that this should be cause for cities and communities to consider cannabis ordinances and protections, particularly for our young people. This can be found in, as I mentioned, the JAMA journal from July 2021, which is a reputable journal. And it's important for everyone to realize more about the link between mental health issues, particularly schizophrenia, bipolar, anxiety, and the use of cannabis. As you consider ordinances that make cannabis more available and marijuana proliferation across the city of Oceanside, I want you to please consider this and consider the link between cannabis and suicide that another caller mentioned. And I do not need to remind you that I know this all too well, and I hope none of you ever have to experience this personally, because you will be sorry that I don't mean this in a threatening way, but you'll regret that you didn't listen more closely if you ever have to deal with this personally. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Now we'll move to our in-person comments. And as I call your name, please move to either podium. Carol Green, to be followed by Katie Taylor, to be followed by Joyce Canine, to be followed by Jordy Fellner. Katie Taylor, you're up. Come on down. To be followed by Joyce Canine, and we do have an extra podium down here, so as I call your name, please make your way down. Jordy Fellner, and Mrs. Taylor, whenever you're ready.
Okay, thank you. I left this with Deb, so I hope everybody has a copy at their seat. This is a list and a picture of the tragic loss of these heroes on August 26th. I want to tell you, I am very distressed that the city of Oceanside failed to place anything on the agenda regarding the devastating loss of 13 brave military men and women in Afghanistan on August 26th. Of these heroes, 10 were stationed right here in Camp Pendleton. Biden and his incompetent team let our brave military down, set them up for their murders, their deaths that should have never happened. Is the city of Oceanside going to stand up for these heroes? Will the city of Oceanside acknowledge the horrific loss to our community and military? Will Oceanside stand up and fill the empty void left by the inexcusable failure of Biden? At the west entrance of Camp Pendleton, there's a spontaneous memorial to our fallen heroes. Flowers, flags, cards, pictures, items left by patriots to express their grief and pain over the loss. I'm requesting the city of Oceanside present a formal resolution in honor of these men and women, an appropriate permanent plaque or memorial in their honor at the soon-to-be renovated bandshell. So generations going forward will remember and know we, the people of Oceanside, care and will never forget. Now more than ever, with the 20th anniversary of 9/11 fast approaching, we must stand up and appreciate what our military men and women do every day that they serve. Now our country is at the greatest risk in years due to the failed and inept, disgraceful Afghanistan withdrawal. I hope everyone appreciates and understands how important it is to recognize these 13 heroes, the men and women serving around the world for our safety and the safety of our country. Never forget, please, never forget American Airlines 11 and United Airlines Flight 175, the two planes hitting the Twin Towers. Never forget people jumping to their deaths as the buildings burned and then collapsed. Never forget the brave passengers on United Flight 93 who gave it all to stop the terrorists so the flight would not reach DC. Never forget American Airlines Flight 77, the trapped passengers talking to their family and friends, being told the other planes had crashed into the Twin Towers, knowing they were headed to their deaths as they were slammed into the Pentagon. Never forget, because the same radical Afghan Islamic terror groups who hate America were just handed by Biden massive amounts of military equipment and a safe haven to revive their terrorist state. And I don't know if you're willing, but Councilman Rodriguez, would you read off the names on this list for me, please?
Did you want to do it now or during your comments, council comments?
Yeah, we had a moment of silence planned toward the end of the meeting, but absolutely, I have all the names that we're going to definitely read, and we have a ceremony scheduled for 9/11, and we can get you guys those details. It's actually going to be pretty elaborate in honor of both the events. I love the idea on the plaque. I mean, these are all things that we definitely, I think, are open to, but we just got to go through the appropriate process to make that
And
happen.
I hope you'll take leadership on that and make it happen.
Absolutely.
It's so important. So you'll be reading these names tonight?
Yes, we will be doing that. There's also Vance, the Veterans Association North County, are working on a Garden of Remembrance. So that's something that
And I'm glad to
is
hear
being
all
worked
that,
on
but
too.
This should have been on tonight's agenda. There's nothing more important that's impacted this city and
Thank you very much, ma'am.
than losing these brave military
The deadline
people.
actually came before it happened, but thank you very much. Next, we have,
Joyce Canine? Am I pronouncing your last name correctly?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. You're on.
Okay. As I drive through Oceanside neighborhoods, I see many American flags flying at half-staff. These are very sad times. A few days ago in Afghanistan, we needlessly lost 10 U.S. Marines, 1 Army Staff Sergeant, and 2 Marine sergeants. Many of them were only 20 years old and probably just out of high school. America is in mourning, but especially Oceanside, a proud U.S. Marine town. This tragedy will be known as the worst disaster and fiasco in American history. The city of Oceanside must do something, and I hear you will. That's terrific. On September 11th, individually commemorate and honor these 13 young American heroes. Thank you.
thank you. And Chief, did you want to come down and say what is being planned for September 11th? So I believe this is there are more speakers on this.
Yes, ma'am. We are planning an event that will commence here at the flagpoles. And it will be a walk down to Surfrider and then southbound on the Strand to the Bandshell, where we will have a number of speakers and commemorate the 20th anniversary of the tragedy that occurred on 9/11 back in 2001. And there'll be a number of officials, including folks from this room, as well as other local representatives that will be taking part.
Thank you. And it will be at the Bandshell?
The walk will conclude at the Bandshell, and that's where the speaking event will take place.
Okay, so the public is invited to come and to be with us during that remembrance.
Yes.
Thank you very much. The time?
It's at it's assembled here at 8:30, and we'll start the walk at 8:46.
Yes, and the approximate time of arrival at the Bandshell? At 9 o'clock. So 8:46 begins the walk, and then 9 o'clock, fast walk pace, I guess, at least for me. We'll begin at 9 o'clock. Thank you.
I'll get it to Susan to get to everybody, and I'm going to do a bunch of big invites on that, so you'll know.
Thank you. Next.
Jordy Feldner, to be followed by Patty Hirschwim, to be followed by Graham Fraser.
So it's 2 minutes till, so go ahead. You can speak.
Right? Okay. First of all, thank you for the opportunity. My name is Jordy Fellner. I'm a resident of Oceanside since 1988, and I retired from Oceanside Unified School District in 2018 with 28 years. My last 18 and a half years were on base Camp Pendleton. I voluntarily transferred from Reynolds Elementary to Santa Margarita, and I retired from Stewart Mesa. So I really have an affinity for military families. I try not to get emotional about this. Early in my career base in Santa Margarita, we did have a casualty of a family on base that lost a member. So for me, it just kind of brings back a lot of it. I think we can all agree, though, that military families have very hard lives. They have multiple deployments. Every year we're dealing with kids that have multiple issues, and it's something that's really very near and dear to my heart. So I'm glad to see that the city is doing something. I really think this is something that, as the city of Oceanside, we really need to embrace, because Camp Pendleton, as I'm sure we will all agree, and I don't think I'm being presumptuous, is the heart of our community. We are a strong military town, and we do pride ourselves on that. So I think it's really very important that these people are recognized. I think also it will give these families a lot of comfort to know that Oceanside has their backs and that we continue to have their backs. So I am very thankful that the city is moving forward. I would like to see this in the Coast News. I did see the thing about the pool. I wasn't able to make it. I did see the announcement of the pool. So if something like this would be in the Coast News and it could really be out there, I think that would be really great. Just a suggestion, I think the schools that are on base, they should definitely be involved, maybe have them present or something, I don't know, but I really think this is really, really critical, just as a community for people to move on, and I think it's also a very unifying act in these times for people to know that the military is loved and is appreciated, and I'm sure you all do, and I know that, I believe Councilman Rodriguez was a former Marine or is a Marine, so you could probably also attest to that, but thank you for considering our Marine Corps, and thank you for considering not just our Marine Corps, our Camp Pendleton, and our military, and God bless them all. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, my apologies. It's now 6 o'clock. We have to turn to our time certain items. That is number 14, and so we have adoption. Number 14 is adoption of a resolution approving conditional use permits. That's CUP 20-00013 and CUP 20-00014, and a waiver of locational requirements to allow medical cannabis manufacturing and distribution facility within an existing building located at 2420 Industry Street. Applicant J&K Manufacturing LLC. I'd like to go ahead and open this public hearing and request disclosures from council members and regarding constituent contacts and correspondence.
On this specific issue, staff only.
Staff.
No contact.
Staff.
Thank you. And Mr. Novato, Mr. Clerk, do you have any correspondence and or petitions?
The city clerk's office has not received any correspondence on this item.
Thank you. We're going to go ahead and begin testimony with Ms. Stephanie Cervantes, planner.
Good evening, Mayor, council members. My name is Stephanie Cervantes with the Planning Division, and I will be presenting conditional use permits and waiver of locational requirements for J&K Manufacturing. Staff and the Planning Commission recommend that the City Council adopt a resolution approving conditional use permits 20-00013 and 20-00014, and a waiver of locational requirements to allow a medical cannabis manufacturing and distribution facility within an existing building located at 2420 Industry Street. The site is on Industry Street near Camelot Drive and Oceanside Boulevard. The project site has a general plan designation of light industrial and is zone limited industrial. The site is surrounded by industrial uses to the east, south, and west, and residential to the north. This is an aerial of the facility. The project proposes a cannabis manufacturing distribution facility. The project consists of interior tenant improvements only. The applicant proposes to divide an existing tenant space in a multi-tenant building. The facility is also required to obtain a waiver of locational requirements. The applicant recently received approval of a local license modification to operate under the new adult use regulations and plans to submit a substantial conformity application after City Council approval. This is the site plan for the facility. There are currently 3 tenant spaces, and the applicant will divide the space on the west side of the building. The project proposal is consistent with the general plan and that there are no odor emissions. The project has been conditioned to eliminate any potential impacts. The site is not open to the public, so there is no increase in loitering or foot traffic, and the business promotes exportation of goods. The project proposes a manufacturing distribution facility within an existing industrial area and is not detrimental to the public health or safety. The site is within 1,000 feet of residential districts, 2 religious facilities, a liquor store, which is a regulated use, and a child care facility. However, the nearest residential district is over 2,000 feet away via pedestrian path. The residential district, both religious facilities, the liquor store, and the child facility are all on the north side of Oceanside Boulevard, while the facility is on the south side, which provides a physical barrier to the industrial district due to the elevation difference. The residential district to the south is across the Spur tracks and is either a mile walk via Crouch Street or a 3.5-mile walk via El Camino Real. The facility is required to obtain state licenses from the newly formed Department of Cannabis Control and must participate in the state's track and trace system. The applicant was originally granted a local license in May of 2020. The license must be renewed annually, and the facility is subject to on-site inspections and audits on an annual basis. The applicant was required to conduct enhanced notification of the project. Notification letters were sent out in November 2020, and the applicant received 3 responses in support of the project. Staff received 1 comment in opposition to the project prior to the Planning Commission hearing, and there were no speakers during the hearing. Planning Commission voted 7-0, recommending approval to City Council. Staff and the Planning Commission recommend that the City Council adopt a resolution approving the conditional use permits CUP 20-00013 and CUP 20-00014 and waiver of locational requirements to allow a medical cannabis manufacturing and distribution facility within an existing building located at 2420 Industry Street. I am available for questions, and the applicant is also present and available for questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Is the applicant gets some time, correct? Yeah. So do we have the applicant present, correct? So come on down. You have up to 20 minutes to speak, and you can reserve some time for rebuttal. So.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor and council members and public. My name is James Bellata, and I appreciate you hearing our application for a conditional use permit for manufacturing and distribution at our facility on Industry Street. We've been working diligently with the planning department and putting together all the recommended and also the required items necessary to ensure that we have a facility that meets the standards or exceeds the standards. We think that the location that we've chosen is prime for this kind of business. It's in the middle of an industrial area. We have made outreach to our neighbors. We believe in being good neighbors, and we believe that all the neighbors in the area there are good neighbors. So I'm open to any questions that you may have. I look forward to being a part of Oceanside in the future here. And thank you for hearing us.
Thank you. So I'm gonna, this is a time for the public to speak. You do not have to have registered a request to speak previously. You can actually come up to the podium and speak for up to 3 minutes. Do we have anyone by Zoom?
Yes, we have 2 individuals by Zoom. Our first speaker is John Bottorff, to be followed by Judy Strang. And Mr. Bottorff, we're getting you on, and there you are. So whenever you're ready. Oh, please unmute yourself.
There we go. Can you guys hear me?
Yes, we can. You could start.
Perfect. Thank you so much. My name is John Bottorff with PlainfieldForKids.org. First of all, we're not talking about legalization or decriminalization. We understand people have the right to use cannabis in California. What we are talking about is smoking is smoking. Smoking anything is harmful to health and is particularly dangerous for children and pregnant women. Our overriding concern is the cannabis industry following step by step the big tobacco playbook, which intentionally targets youth, especially youth of color. Their goal is to create lifelong customers through addiction. Personally, I have seen a dramatic increase in the use of cannabis by youth, particularly youth of color. It's pretty much anytime you go down to the harbor, the beach, anywhere in Oceanside, I see more and more people, particularly young people, smoking cannabis. They don't know smoking is hazardous and addictive. They don't know this. Please work with local community groups to educate youth on the dangers of cannabis. Get in the schools, get in the boys and youth groups, get in these church groups. These youth need to know that it needs to be, that there are dangers involved, and we are absolutely very happy to help. While medical use of cannabis has its uses, we should be looking at resources other than drugs. As Alicia, one of our youth and a member of NAACP Youth Council, puts it, smoking is not coping. We also ask the city to not allow any expansion of cannabis in Oceanside beyond medical use. It is not fair that people who have to be exposed to secondhand smoke. Wood smoke produces far more particulate pollution than cigarette smoke does. The EPA researchers estimate the lifetime cancer risk from wood smoke to be 12 times greater than from a similar amount of cigarette smoke. Smoking of anything is harmful to lung health, whether from burning wood, tobacco, marijuana, toxins, and carcinogens are released from the combustion of materials. Smoke from marijuana combustion has been shown to contain many of the same toxins, irritants, and carcinogens as tobacco smoke. It is not enough to just put in a few little signs in some of these stores. Please do not allow anything more than the medical marijuana. Please protect our youth. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next public comment via Zoom is from Judy Strang. Judy, are you there?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, whenever you're ready, you can start.
Thank you. Good evening, City Council, and thank you to John for pointing out the concerns that we in the parent community have about a manufacturing location who is likely to be manufacturing vaping products, because we understand that 50% of the products sold in pop shops are vaping products. And we also know the rate of vaping among teenagers is increasing. In fact, over the weekend, the National PTA put out a press release regarding this problem, asking PTAs, and you have many in Oceanside, to educate their parents and their youth regarding the concerns and problems associated with vaping and smoking as well, particularly in this case, marijuana. So thank you, John. I actually was speaking more directly to the Planning Commission meeting that was held. I think I heard the staff report that perhaps no one was at that Planning Commission meeting. I was going to check my personal records, but I'm almost positive I was there, and that there were many others who spoke of their concerns. The staff report on page 39 mentions that the concerns from the public that evening were about the 6 exemptions that were being made were, as the staff reports put, skirting the law. And this was very much a concern that evening, that we put in place requirements for CUP and the sorts of things that we want to keep our community safe by these 1,000-foot from sensitive uses. And in this case, there are 6 of them that are sensitive uses that we're asking to be waived for this CUP. I think this is more than just skirting the law. This sounds to me like sliding away from the intent of CUPs. CUPs are not to facilitate businesses. They're to protect the health and safety of a community, of businesses and of residences, of children and families. I also would like to call attention to some kind of hyperbolic language that I find confusing. Again, on page 39, it mentions that not approving waivers of locational requirements, which is what we're being asked to do tonight, 6 of them, would effectively eliminate almost all cannabis facilities, which would be counter to the policy decision to allow them with the approval of a CUP. Well, that's not what's going on with the CUP. The CUP is an instrument of protection. It's not an instrument of enabling of, in this case, cannabis facilities. The fact that they may not be able to locate within 1,000 feet of sensitive uses are put for our protection. This is not a symbol that that we need to move forward with this CUP. Another area of concern that I had was on page 10.
That's time, Judy. That is time.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. And that concludes the people that were registered on Zoom.
Okay, thank you. So back to, excuse me, hold on. I'm going to respond to your question right now. We just finished with those that wish to speak by Zoom. Now, folks who are in the chambers right now can speak to this item. Please rise and approach the podium, and you can speak for up to 3 minutes.
I'm going to wing this.
And also, please state your name for the record.
Oh, I'm sorry. Katie Taylor. I'm an Oceanside resident. I attended probably one of the most impactful presentations I've ever seen at Grace Church a week ago. And the person making the presentation was Rocky Herron, Herron. He's a retired DEA agent, and he's now taken a position with the San Diego Office of Education. He's decided to commit the rest of his time, his life, to try to combat drug abuse in our schools and with kids and getting them off drugs. And the one thing he kept saying over and over, it starts with the marijuana. And he had example after example. And I think the most impactful example at the end was how many pictures he flashed on the screen from San Diego County that had died from drug overdoses and using drugs that were under 18 years old. In fact, the youngest face he showed on the screen was 8. So I just don't know how Oceanside benefits from more marijuana dispensaries, manufacturing, and I would highly suggest that maybe you put this on hold and have this wonderful, amazing DEA agent explain to you the dangers we're putting our children in. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, does anyone else wish to speak? You can please approach the podium, and you have up to 3 minutes to speak. Please first say your name.
Patty Kirschman. Just because I realize in California the voters voted to legalize the marijuana doesn't mean Oceanside has to promote it. And it doesn't mean that just because you get revenue, that that's a good thing. Just because it's legal doesn't mean it's good, okay? And enough is enough. And enough of the variances for cannabis businesses. I do not understand that, council members. Of all businesses, you continually allow for variances. That's all, thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else wish to speak? Please rise and approach the podium. Okay. Please state your name.
My name is Lance Rogers. I'm from Encinitas, and I'm the lawyer for J&K Manufacturing.
You are part of the team here?
Yes, so I'm not sure if that needs to be part of the rebuttal.
So he does have time for rebuttal, so why don't we let this for the public? Thank you. No one else is rising, so I'm going to close this portion of the hearing and ask the applicant if they wish to use some of their time for rebuttal. Thank you very much, sir.
They have 18 minutes.
And you have 18 minutes, so.
You know, it's been a long day for, I think, all of us. So, you know, we appreciate your time. Again, my name is Lance Rogers. I'm an Encinitas resident, and I'm the lawyer for J&K Manufacturing, Jim Bellata, who I have worked with for, man, eight years now. This is a dream of Jim's to make this happen. Jim is from North County. I understand, you know, the concerns here. I understand the concerns of those who are on the call. I'm aware of the organization from the folks who are on the call, and they've been opposing the regulation of medical marijuana and marijuana almost as long as I've been doing this, for 13 years. But, you know, I think what you said earlier, I mean, it is legal. It is legal in California, and it's legal here in Oceanside. That was the will of the voters here. And so the question is not, you know, to promote cannabis or medical cannabis or to oppose it. The question is where to put it, how to regulate it, how to do it in a safe and effective manner, how to tax it to protect the citizens. I mean, the issue of, you know, legalization or not legalization is not before council here, before you. You know, we had a 7-0 vote with the Planning Commission. I was there, and I was in these chambers, and I can tell you right now that there was no one else there. And if there were, we would have spoken with them at the time. I know Jim has talked to all of the neighbors in his community and said, any concerns, you know, bring them to us. This is not a dispensary that's open to the public. This is here to make medical grade, medical cannabis for folks that I've personally seen over the last decade suffer from serious debilitating illnesses and injuries and use cannabis for medical benefit. And so, you know, I just would like the council to focus on what's before them, the CUP. I've been coming before council for a really long time on this issue, and I'm hoping that we can just kind of move forward. And again, Jim's door is always open. If there's any concerns about what's going on there, reach out. I mean, his contact information is public. So we really appreciate your time and consideration. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Does staff wish to add anything before we go to the council?
Not at this time, thank you.
Okay, thank you. So back to the city council members here. Councilmember Weiss.
Thank you. I have a question for staff. The reason this is before us, I believe, is because it is a use permit, but it's a regulated use. Is there a way, is there some kind of text amendment we could do that would allow actions like this, which is a CUP, even though it's a regulated use, to be heard and the final authority be the Planning Commission unless it's appealed to the council?
That would require a text amendment to Article 36 of the zoning ordinance. So there is a way. We'd have to amend the zoning ordinance. All other regulated uses are decision or a recommendation by the Planning Commission, a final approval by council, but that's subject to your discretion. Obviously, these businesses are also getting annual local licenses too, separate from this. So
I would like to see that happen. I don't know about my colleagues, but aside from that, I will move approval of staff recommendation.
Councilmember Rodriguez.
Since being elected in 2018, we've had a lot of cannabis dynamics come before this body, and I make the following statements over and over again because I think it's important for the public to understand the true issues with cannabis. My history, my father was a drug addict. He beat the crap out of my mom. I lived around drugs, drug dealers, in and out of shelter, so I know the extremes and the consequences and chaos that drugs, drug addiction can bring to a family. And I have 7 children, all that, you know, live and thrive. My son's at boot camp at the United States Marine Corps right now. My daughter's married, living in Washington with her Marine husband, and I still have 5 at home that have to, you know, deal with the opportunities of cannabis. But what you have to understand is kids are getting cannabis from the black market. Not one child is getting gummy bears, cookies, weed from a legal licensed dispensary. Okay? 70% of the transactions that happen in the state of California, in this city, are from the black market. You understand? So what we're competing with is the black market. In order to do sting operations and have the funding for the police units to go after these bad actors that are selling these drugs to our kids. We need the funding to do that. And so we have local regulation, because it is legal in the state of California, local regulation allows business to do things legally, and they're not gonna waste their $200,000, $300,000 investment because a teeny bopper wants to come in and get gummy bears. They're not gonna risk that. It doesn't happen. It doesn't happen. The black market is what's selling to our kids, and the black market is what has to go. And the only way it's gonna go is if we have legal, licensed, local control so that we can go after the bad guys, educate our kids, and fight for our kids. And I'm speaking as probably someone who has more kids than anybody in this room. So with that being said, being a policymaker, standing up here, knowing the consequences of drugs, this can't just be a no, 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 because the black market's gonna continue. So we're in a position now where revenues are gonna start coming in, and I will fight for every dollar we can to go out and get rid of these thugs that are dealing and selling this stuff to our children, and for educational programs for our youth. That's what's gonna happen from this. Because doing nothing is only gonna help what you guys are here speaking against. So I'd like to second that motion.
Okay, there's a motion and a second, and Councilmember Jensen.
Yes, I have a question about the products you're going to be manufacturing. Can you speak more to the products themselves, whether, I'm assuming it's oil, and what the THC levels are going to be in your products?
Yes, council member. Thank you. We will be producing a wide range of products that would include actual flower from the plant, vape cartridges that are made from oil that comes from the plant, excuse me, and other ancillary products. We won't have a kitchen, so we won't be providing edibles per se, but our objective is to provide the best product. My background is from a highly regulated business. I came out of the banking industry, and when I got into this business, I was probably on the opposite side of this than I am now. And this was before 2014. And when I did see people who were applying for licenses for medical marijuana, I thought that I might be able to do something better and bring my regulatory experience to it and produce products that people could find useful and not misuse them. So as a manufacturer and distributor, we have the responsibility to produce products that are of good quality and that meet at least the minimum standards that the state has put together, and they're pretty stringent. So as far as products go, we plan on manufacturing the basic products that are known. We may have some additional products that are new because I believe in research and development allows us to come up with the best final products that are good for people that use them. I hope that answered your question. If you have more, I'd be happy to help.
Yes, the THC levels.
The THC levels nowadays range up to the 90% level and more. But what's important with THC, whether it's in a 90% level in oils or a 12% level in flowers, wherever it comes from, is the dose. So it's important that you know how much you're giving or getting as a user of that THC. And that's where regulatory guidelines come into play and scientific guidelines come into play so that we do know the actual amount that is ingested in a puff from a vapor cartridge or in a drink from a drink, et cetera.
Okay, thank you. And once again, I do want to say that I support our tax revenue going to prevention. I also heard the DEA agent speak, and prevention is the only way we're going to fight substance abuse and addiction. And it's imperative that we keep these products away from our children. They're dangerous, kids are dying. I've seen kids in withdrawal from THC. It's a real thing. The seizures are real, the deaths are real, and it's imperative that we focus on prevention and keeping this out of the hands of children. Thank you.
Thank you. And Ms. Cervantes, did you wish to add
Yes,
to the comments?
Mayor, council members, I did want to add that the state of California has strict guidelines on the maximum amount of THC per serving and per package. So the applicant, any products that do come out of that facility are going to be tested, not just for pesticides, metals, things like that, but also serving size will be tested, and that has to be accurate on labels.
Thank you. I see no other lights. My comments, this is a regulated use, and conditions were placed to minimize impacts to the community. One of those requirements is that it be 1,000 feet from a minimum separation distance of 1,000 feet from any other regulated use, as well as from public or private schools, childcare facilities, public recreational facilities, religious facilities, and residential zoning districts. We have had requests for waiver with respect to the distances, this 1,000 minimum distance. This one, however, is the first one that we have several requirements that are going to be in effect in violation, and that's the request for the waiver, and that is that the existing building is about 130 feet to the nearest residential district to the north, 570 feet to a residential district to the south, 610 feet to one religious facility, 760 feet to another religious facility, 915 feet to a regulated use, probably a liquor store, and about 990 feet to a child care facility. Those are a lot. I think we've had maybe one of these that we've been waiving, and I think that this is more than I can accept, so my vote is going to be no. Let's go ahead and let's vote.
Motion approved, 3-2, Sanchez, Jensen, no.
Thank you very much. Our next item is item number 15. Again, another public hearing item. That's adoption of a resolution establishing the fees for overnight oversized vehicle parking permits in the city of Oceanside at $5 per night and at $150 per month with respect to vehicles having to have a relationship to the job. I'm going to go ahead and open this public hearing and request disclosures from council members with respect to constituent contacts and correspondence.
Staff and we received 2 emails this afternoon.
Staff and several constituents, Oceanside residents.
I did speak with the city attorney, and also some constituent concerns.
Staff and constituents.
Staff.
Thank you. And Mr. Navarro, have there been any correspondence and or petitions?
We received one email that was forwarded to council today.
Thank you very much. So we begin testimony with Mr. Nathan Mertz, who is our Public Works Division Manager.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor, members of the City Council. Nathan Mertz, Public Works Division Manager. Tonight before you is a request to adopt a resolution establishing fees for the citywide overnight oversized vehicle parking permit program. On April 21st, 2021, City Council adopted an ordinance to amend all articles of the City of Oceanside Municipal Traffic Code. Included in that was a restriction on overnight parking of oversized vehicles on city streets. To summarize the oversized vehicle ordinance, oversized vehicles are not allowed to park between 2 a.m. and 6 a.m. Oversized vehicles can be defined as any vehicle that exceeds 25 feet in length, 7 feet in width, 7 feet in height. Also includes unattached trailers or non-motorized vehicles. Just as a reminder, this is consistent with 11 San Diego County cities and consistent with 5 Southern California coastal cities. As stated earlier, this ordinance was adopted on April 21st, 2021. The item before you tonight is to implement the adopted ordinance and establish the allowed permit program fee. The $5 fee is for residents and guests or out-of-town guests of residents. Permits are good for 24 hours, and residents can obtain 6 permits per month. The $150 permit is for residents' work vehicles or commercial vehicles. These vehicles can be constituted as company cars or vehicles of a business owner, sole proprietor type, electrician, plumber. Between Public Works and Finance, we evaluated 16 San Diego County cities and 5 Southern California cities. The 24-hour permit is consistent with 7 San Diego County cities. Residents that are able to use DMV Verify can obtain instant permits 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. The monthly work vehicle permit for residents allows residents to park their light utility vehicle used for work or their business legally. The permit applicant has to be an Oceanside resident. Due to the administration involved with approving and monitoring this type of permit, Public Works and Finance determined that the $150 fee per month to be cost recovery. Staff recommends that City Council adopt a resolution establishing the fees for the overnight oversized vehicle parking permits in the City of Oceanside at $5 per night and $150 per month. That concludes my presentation. If you have any questions, I'd be more than happy to answer. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mertz. I understand we have one person by Zoom who wishes to speak.
That is correct. Our registered Zoom speaker is John Botter, to be followed by our in-person speakers, Katie Taylor, Julie Stirk, and Patty Kirchwin. And Mr. Bodorf, you're on. Please unmute yourself.
There we go.
All right.
Thank you very much. My name is John Bodorf with cleaningforkids.org. The increase in RVs being parked in Oceanside is a direct result to homelessness. Please do not take actions to criminalize these people. Let's work together to help home and business owners and the people living in these RVs. We would ask the city to work with local groups and churches to provide safe parking lots for these RVs. There are a number of large parking lots in Oceanside that can be used. Sanitation facilities can be provided at these locations along with other services. This would be a great way to help everyone involved. So thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. So we'll move to our in-person speakers. So come on down. Katie Taylor, to be followed by Julie Stirk. And as I call your name, please make your way down. We do have 2 podiums you could speak at. So whenever you're ready.
Hi, I'm Katie Taylor again. Looking at this whole ordinance, I just don't understand. It seems like Oceanside takes 2 steps forward and then 3 steps back. This $5 cost per night will do nothing to improve our streets or make it a better place to live for the people in Oceanside that these permits are going to be required to speak. If somebody has a work vehicle, they should be able to park it in the driveway or on site of their property. I can see if somebody has a guest coming for maybe a week with an oversized vehicle, but as I understand it, these permits can be renewed and renewed and renewed. So basically what you're doing is selling a parking lot to anybody that wants to buy it. It's kind of how I see it. But once again, I would ask tonight that this be tabled, that there be more discussion about how this should be handled, because the streets are finally starting to look good, and now you're going to do something like this, which I think will diminish all the improvements we've been working on. Thank you.
Thank you.
Julie Stirk, to be followed by Patty Kirchwin, to be followed by Graham Fraser.
Good evening, Mayor Sanchez, council members, Councilmember Kine. Hello. I'm asking for that we continue this agenda item for more public comment, but I also want to say that I own a trailer, I own a boat, and I feel like I'm going to be taxed if I place my trailer or my boat in front of my house. I think that we need to find another solution to somehow exempt homeowners or renters from this ordinance.
Patty Kirchwim, to be followed by Graham Fraser.
Yes, good evening. Patty Kirschwam. First of all, congratulations for the ordinance a few months ago when we were trying to control the transient situation. Yay, no overnight parking 2 to 6 a.m. That's a great thing. Congratulations. However, I didn't notice, and a lot of us didn't notice, this other ordinance that followed right along that really undid your ordinance for the overnight ban on 2 to 6 a.m. Someone came along and established this permit that undid what you previously had done. You don't have to give me any reasons. You don't have to justify it all. It's simply that we were trying to get rid of the clutter on our streets, not increase it. With this new code, you have legally enabled clutter. I've personally had to call code enforcement for campers to get them moved within the 72-hour period. And I just see where this code, at $5 a night, you cannot find a camping spot for $5 a night anywhere. So why are you doing this? And, I don't know if you can give comment or not, but it doesn't make sense to me. And I don't know who this mysterious staff always puts these suggestions together for the council, because I would like to have them present if possible, and maybe that's the Public Works Department that's already present. As you noticed, I'm requesting a delay in this vote tonight because that's the only control we have. You've already passed this until we can undo this ordinance. Particularly down where I live in the beach area, you cannot find parking at all during the summer on weekends. So to allow people to camp and to allow, plumbers, electricians, food trucks to clutter the streets night after night for 30 days, that is a business expense that they should encounter, not the city, not the residents of the street who have to suffer through that. You've made all these exceptions, and you're gonna have to justify why you're allowing this, basically free camping. So let's set the whole picture. You did a job by not allowing transients to park their rusty vehicles, okay? But then you allow people who can pay $5 to park their vehicles. It doesn't even out. It's really kind of a discrimination in a way. So please consider tabling this for further discussion. The fees do not work.
Thank you. Mr. Fraser?
Mr. Fraser?
Thank you. Graham Fraser, 40-year resident of Oceanside. I'm here to support the previous three speakers. They spoke well about the issue. They've taken most of the points that I would have brought up. But I think it's part of a larger issue. I think we're cherry picking a particular issue here. I see this granting of these entitlements really is a disparate entitlement to people with motorhomes. What about somebody with a 22-footer? What's the difference between 22 feet and 25 feet? I know it's 3 feet, but I mean, in terms of this ordinance, what's the difference? I'm even questioning whether the fees that are collected are actually going to be pay for the additional code enforcement to try to collect that money. How are you going to tell the difference between a homeless owned vehicle and a resident? You give the homeless a ticket, you're never going to get that money. So that thing's going to move. Why not attach this to the 72-hour or amend the 72-hour parking ordinance or in some other way? I just think the whole thing is sort of a little spurious to me. Thank you. Please take another look at it.
Thank you. This is a time for the public to speak. You do not have to register prior to speaking. If you wish to stand and approach the podium and speak on this item, please do so. Okay, I don't see anyone else rising. I'm going to go ahead and close this portion of the public hearing and go to staff to perhaps respond to some of the questions, maybe Mr. Mullen as well.
I'll respond to one or two, and then I think the technical ones Nathan may need to weigh in on. But the ordinance was adopted in April as one item. There was never a follow-up item to undo portions that were previously adopted. There's basically a ban on oversized vehicle parking between 2 a.m. and 6 a.m. Oversized vehicles are defined within that code. And then there were a handful of exceptions that were approved at the same time the ordinance was introduced, principally the one that says if you're an Oceanside resident and you need to temporarily park on a city street because there's no other space available, you could do so for no more than, I believe, 6 days, 24-hour periods over a month, essentially, upon the payment of a permit fee established by resolution of the City Council. And that is what we're here for tonight, is to establish that cost recovery fee. Nathan, do you want to add on?
There is something wrong with your mic, by the way, so hopefully we can get that fixed for next time.
Okay.
Thank you.
Honorable Mayor, City Council members, Mr. Mullen stated perfectly what this is intended to do. It's for residents only, and that's it. You have to have an address, a residential address within Oceanside to even get step one into this permit process. Even for the work vehicle component, you have to be a resident. It's not for a commercial address, it's a residential address only. So this is only for our residents that live here, and the convenience of maybe pulling an RV from storage, taking it to their house to load it for a 3-month journey to South Dakota, stock it full of goods, and then they're out the next morning. They can do this legally without getting a ticket, and it's all about just kind of that convenience component.
So, for example, the residents owning a vehicle used on a daily basis for work, that's a regular, not an oversized. Is that correct?
It just, if the vehicle is greater than 7 feet in height, or 7 feet in width, or over 25 feet in length, then that would be an oversized vehicle, and they would need to get a permit for that. If it's under those dimensions, they would not need a permit. But the 72-hour rule still comes into play. You can't park a vehicle on the street for more than 72 hours. So this is intended to keep, people moving and make it legal.
Okay.
Mayor, can I make one other point and follow up? And that is,
You sound better.
I moved to a new mic. I wanted to respond to the discussion about targeting the homeless. This ordinance does not target the homeless. This is a oversized vehicle regulation similar to almost all of the other coastal cities in the county, similar to the one in San Diego as well. And we simply moved from the 72-hour rule, which, you could park an oversized vehicle on a city street over the course of 72 hours, and then you had to move it, I believe, a half a mile to be legal, to simply have a 2 a.m. to 6 a.m. prohibition. Everyone is treated equally under that. It's the size of the vehicle that matters, not who owns or occupies it.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mullen. I did want to make sure that this is understood, that we are just becoming consistent with every other city that is in the North County and beyond. Thank you. No, sorry. Sorry, that portion of the hearing has been closed. So now, actually, we come to the discussion at City Council, and if a council member has a question that may include a statement from you, then I guess at that point, that can be entertained. Going to go ahead and start with Councilmember Rodriguez.
I'll let you rebut with my 10 minutes, but let me just say a couple things. Right now, if you want to park your boat or oversized vehicle on Oceanside streets, it's considered illegal and you will be fined because you don't have a permit. And the reason why you don't have a permit is because we haven't established fees for that permit. Right now, this ordinance and why you're complimenting the city on having clean streets is because we took bold efforts to not be the wild, wild west and invite everyone who wants to camp or have a free-for-all on our streets. It creates a little bit more order, and it creates a safer environment, and you see tangible benefits because of that. Now, if you're an Oceanside resident and you have an oversized vehicle that you want to park, we have to hire staff to facilitate coordinating that with you, to issue you that permit. And if an individual that wants to drive to the city of Oceanside with their oversized vehicle and stay on our streets, from us, we're looking at them, they can apply for that same permit, but our staff have to work, and we have to be able to provide, the resources to cover the cost of issuing that permit, that short-term permit, or a portion of this ordinance states, which I'm actually not going to support tonight, 1B, which is more for work vehicles. I think there's a lot of blue-collar Oceanside workers that have plumbing trucks, painting trucks. I have pictures and tickets from a military family that just got out that it has been getting a lot of tickets because his vehicle can't, he parks it on the street and he has to go to work, and he should not be punished for having a work vehicle. I think that's inappropriate, and I don't want to be charging that. So I would, I'm in favor of 1A. I'm also in favor of further discussion, but we need to have something on the books, because right now you can't legally park your oversized vehicle in front of your house without being ticketed. Does that make sense? You have to get a permit if you want to park your oversized vehicle in front of your house right now. And how can you get a permit if there's no fee structure? Does that make sense? So we have to establish that and move this in the right direction. And so if you guys want to add to that right now, you can with my time. Do you guys have anything else to say on that? I'm not going to be supporting the commercial side of this. My motion actually is to support 1A and eliminate 1B because I think 1B would be creating consequence for Oceanside residents that work. I think there needs to be some sort of waiver or additional language with that. Go ahead.
Okay. Yes, there is additional comment because I believe in the presentation earlier, which I didn't have the information, the staff analysis doesn't go into detail. So I don't know what 1A and 1B are. Sorry. But I believe my questions were, how do you know this person that applies doesn't have this rusty old thing that I have to look at, 30 days out of the month? And you don't, because on the presentation, it said it's an online thing. It's like pay and you get it. I mean, that doesn't even make sense. You have no oversight. You accept the fee, and we're talking about oversized.
I understand what you're saying, but right now, if you're a resident of Oceanside and you have an oversized vehicle, you cannot park it in front of your house without us establishing this. I hear where you're coming from. You don't want outsiders coming in with their rusty thing in front of your house and staying there. With this, it goes both ways.
Yes, it does go both ways, but there's no oversight, Mr. Rodriguez. And oversized vehicle is different than the little van size that people have, because down on, for instance, our street near the beach, there's a problem parking anyway. And the regular vans with the plumbers, electricians are one thing, and we have those. But the oversized vehicles or the trailers or the boats is something different. And there's no oversight because you just go online and apply for the permit and you get it. You stick it on your thing.
What's the rules with, you have to have an address in the city of Oceanside.
Hold on.
But also you might be visiting. Go ahead.
And I had a discussion about that earlier. I think he could describe how the system works.
Okay.
The DMV verify is needed to get the permit. It's essentially showing that a vehicle is registered to that particular address, and through this virtual permitting process, if you can, submit the proper information, the registration attached to that address, then through the DMV, you basically have an approved permit. That is the oversight. If there's an anomaly, then you'll have to come into the city to get that permit, and it has to go through the finance, parking administration and finance to have some sort of alternative to the DMV verify.
Does that answer your question? It has to be tied to a residential address in the city of Oceanside.
That's granted. I understand that perfectly. It's just that if you have all these vehicles, oversized vehicles parked on your street, there's no oversight. DMV is one thing. Okay, they've got a license. But you have no oversight as to, it could be this rusty old camper. And that's not a pleasant sight.
I know, but it's not illegal to have a rusty camper.
No, but that's what we had to move along.
This is not dialogue. It's actually the council member asking you questions, and I think, do you have any more questions, Mr. Rodriguez?
You know what I would like to say about that? Discussion is a good thing. And it clarifies things. Not allowing discussion is when you get the repressed anger.
Discussion happens here. Public input happens where you're standing. And right now we're past public input.
No, and I
Thank you very much.
think we understand. And I don't think anybody wants, what you're suggesting. But there's limitations to government in our society in what people have their free legal right to do, whether we don't want to look at it or not. We just have to balance this because we don't want to, we have staff that have to issue these and monitor it and keep this oversight, and that costs money, and so we need to establish that.
But there's no oversight.
Thank you very much. Okay, I have a couple of other council members wishing to speak. I'd like to actually move adoption of the resolution as is. Deputy Mayor Keim?
Just a quick question from Mr. Mertz, or it's along Councilman Rodriguez's concerns of the $150 a month. I mean, I do that, $1,800 a year for someone who's, maybe a sole proprietor, and that could be a burden. Is there? I'd like to go forward with it today. If maybe we could lower that, figure out a way. I don't know if we would need to look at it and bring back with a different number. Yeah, that would be, kind of like a beach parking permit is $100 a year. I just think $1,800 is too much.
Councilmember Weiss?
I'm going to kind of tag on to what Mr. Mertz was just kind of laying out. So I'm an out-of-town visitor visiting your neighborhood. How do I get an overnight permit since my DMV isn't going to be tied to your address?
The resident that you're visiting has to apply for the permit for you.
Is the issue of being tied to a specific address clearly identified in the ordinance, because it's not in the resolution that way?
It's part of the business rules in achieving the approved permit.
Because the way the staff report and the reso are written, it's anybody can apply for a permit for any street. It doesn't tie it to a specific address. So I just want to make sure that if we're going to issue an overnight permit, it has to be tied to a very specific address. I can't just show up from Arizona, call in and get a permit and park it on any street I want.
You would not be able to do that. You would not be approved. You have to have a registered vehicle to a residential address in Oceanside.
Okay.
And it has to be current registration, is that correct?
Okay, thank you.
Did you have anything?
No.
Okay, so we have two motions on the floor and no seconds. Deputy Mayor Keim?
Yes.
Sorry.
Sorry if I wasn't clear. I didn't make a motion, but if Councilmember Rodriguez would be open to it, modifying his so we can pass that at a reduced rate.
So I think mine would include B, and you're asking to amend it. You would want it to be lower than the $150 per month.
Correct.
Is, okay, Councilmember Rodriguez?
$1,800 a year for someone to have a monthly work permit seems outrageous. I think $150 or for a month, $150 a year or $50 a year, whatever the cost is for staff time for them to come in and get it on an annual basis as an Oceanside resident, I think that would be appropriate, but monthly at $1,800 a year is unacceptable. So what's the calculation for staff's time?
And see, that's the thing, is it's not going to be one time they go out there. It's going to be every time someone complains about it.
Well, but they're going to have a permit on their car, and yeah, because it's an annual permit. For 1B,
Mr. Mertz?
Councilmember Rodriguez, this is a virtual permit and it's attached to a license plate. We will not be issuing hang tags or stickers part of that. Yeah, so it'll take either license plate recognition or a visit from parking enforcement officers to verify on any complaints.
But code enforcement will be able to run the plate and say, yeah, this guy's registered for a year. He's paid his $150, is what I'm saying.
If it was a year-long permit?
Correct. Yeah. And my question to you is the $150 enough to satisfy the staff hours versus the $1,800 that was recommended by staff?
Well, we're anticipating with the oversight and the management of these permits, business license, registration, these different options to get this permit with these residents will take oversight from staff. So that is where we felt safe for cost recovery and all the items that could be included in terms of verifying and checking and managing this.
Do you know how many work vehicles are in our city to establish that? I'm really curious how you came up with the 1,800 now. You had to have an assumption of how many work vehicles are in our city to establish that fee.
There is no inventory of work vehicles that I know of.
So how are you coming up with $1,800 a year per resident that's blue collar, barely making it through COVID right now?
It's actually based on staff time, not really distinguishing what vehicle.
The answer is they didn't take into consideration the number of work vehicles and individuals that have work vehicles in our city. That's the answer.
So, Councilmember, we didn't inventory the number of work vehicles. Many of them may not need a permit. Instead, we looked at just would we anticipate our costs would be associated with issuing the individual permit along with general enforcement in the city. It's an estimate. We will have to track costs to determine if it's accurate. But at the same time, what the law requires is that the fee be no higher than cost recovery. You certainly could set a lower fee. And
So
certainly as a starting point, we could do that and reconcile in the future.
Thank you, Councilmember Jensen.
That we're going to be able to establish fees tonight, are we? I mean, are we going to be able to change this tonight and come up with another amount?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Kime.
I'll take a crack at a motion or a move. If we do, I'm assuming by doing a permit monthly, you're putting that same man hours in every month. If we change that to yearly and 150, that takes staff time away. We do it once a year, makes it easier for everyone. It's cheaper. Can we just do that?
Second.
So it's $150 a year.
$150 a year. Staff needs only check it once, so we don't have to check it 12 times. It's cheaper.
It's going to be checked as many times as people
No, I mean the permit.
complain.
Just going over the permit request is once a year. So.
Okay, Councilmember Weiss.
What's the cost for an annual beach parking permit?
Residents 100, out-of-town residents 200.
And for these vehicles used on a daily basis for work, these are oversized vehicles only. So they're the size of an RV. So the plumber truck and the handyman truck are not going to be part of this.
Right. It could be a high roof Sprinter under 25 feet, but exceeds 7 feet.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you.
There's a motion and a second with the change that it is $150 dollars per year for the permit having to do with the daily basis for work, which is the 1B. A motion and a second, please vote.
Motion approved, 4-1. Jensen, no.
I would suggest you, after you implement this, report back in a year so we can see.
Yeah, I think that would be a good idea. Pass-through memo in a year to see how we're doing with respect to, Mr. Mertz? Ms. Lorson? We're requesting a pass-through memo to see how it works.
Yes,
thank you
Mayor,
very
we got
much.
that. Thank you.
So pass through.
Okay, next item.
Set the calendar.
One more.
Sorry about the copies.
Is item number 16. This is adoption of a resolution updating the city's general plan to remove the Melrose Drive extension from Spur Avenue to North Santa Fe Avenue from the city's circulation element. I'd like to go ahead and open this public hearing and request disclosures from council members regarding constituent contacts and correspondence.
Since this is the first time we're hearing this, staff, public, and it's at least, I don't know how many times we've heard this, but pretty much everyone. Public.
Thank you.
I've been on the dais the longest, so it's I have a lot more hearings.
Staff, public.
Thank you. And Mr. Navarro, do we have any correspondence and/or petitions?
We have no correspondence on this item.
Thank you very much. I'm speaking slowly. There we go. We are going to begin testimony with Mr. Hamid Badori, our traffic engineer.
Thank you very much, Honorable Mayor, members of City Council. We are here tonight in front of you with a recommendation following direction given to us by the City Council back in March of 2019 to remove the Melrose Drive extension from Spur Avenue to North Santa Fe Avenue from city circulation element. I would briefly share a little bit of background about the project with you. Most of you are very well familiar with it. The future extension of the Melrose Drive between Spur and North Santa Fe has been on the city's circulation element since early 80s. In early 1990s, the city, in cooperation with the county, started the planning process for the project, but due to the funding limitations, it was halted. The project was reinitiated in 2009, and in June of 2010, the City Council approved the EIR and certified the so-called alternate A, the middle alignment, as the preferred alternate. A lawsuit was subsequently filed, and it was settled later in July 2011, which resulted in reduced cross-section of the road and other environmental mitigation measures associated with the project. On June 27, 2012, the City Council approved a professional services contract to start the design process. The construction plans were prepared, and the latest cost estimate that we have, according to those construction plans, are about $45 million, but these cost estimates are about 5-6 years old, and the cost can be substantially higher even today, not to mention by the time of the construction. The construction of the Melrose Drive extension would require acquisition of about 5 parcels, and one of them is a parkland that belongs to the County of San Diego. This parkland was acquired using federal funds, therefore it falls under Section 4F of the Federal Department of Interior and will require approval by the Department of Interior for conversion for transportation purposes. Back on March 27, 2019, the City Council directed the staff to prepare an amendment to the city's general plan to remove the Melrose Drive extension from North Santa Fe to Spur Avenue from city circulation element. Following the council's direction in 2019, consultants were hired to evaluate the impacts of this deletion. And I have to apologize here a little bit for the delay to bringing this back to you, which was mostly caused by the COVID restrictions and the staffing changes in the city and in the consultant team. Even the direction was given in March of 2019. We should have been here sooner. But we're here today. The completed analysis have evaluated the traffic, noise, and air quality impacts of the deletion of this project, and I'm going to go very briefly over the analysis and how we did it. We picked two alternatives for the 2030 horizon year. One of them was with no project, which means that Melrose stays in, and the other one is with project, which means Melrose is deleted. We defined the study area, and in that study area, we identified 10 roadway segments and 12 intersections to be analyzed. We also did a comprehensive VMT analysis for the project, and 3 jurisdictions have roadway segments and intersections that are impacted: our own city, Oceanside, Vista, and Caltrans. We used the SANDAG Series 13 model outputs with the appropriate historical data adjustments, and we used the level of service analysis results comparing with the level of service analysis that each jurisdiction, including our own, has for its transportation system. The VMT impact analysis showed that respectively 1.97% and 0.58% of VMT will be increased in the city and in the San Diego region, in the SANDAG region. The VMT changes are rather nominal, more localized than regional, and no VMT impact is identified and associated with the project per the OPR guidelines that are applicable statewide. The roadway segments in the study area, all 10 of them, will operate at acceptable level of service C or better with the Melrose Drive deletion. 2 intersections were impacted. One is North Santa Fe Avenue and SR 76, and the other one is College Boulevard and SR 76. The mitigations on the first one, on the North Santa Fe and 76, can be implemented rather easily within the existing right-of-way, of course, subject to Caltrans approval, review and approval of the plans. The second intersection is the infamous intersection of SR 76 and College Boulevard that you are all well familiar with and has even made it to the newspaper as one of the most congested in the region. This intersection was identified as part of the 2012 circulation element as the intersections that cannot be mitigated to the acceptable level of service C. The Planning Commission subsequently for the development of project via Astoria conditioned the developer to do a design for the project. A modified version of the Planning Commission recommendations have been designed and show that that intersection, the cost estimate as of last year shows about $2.8 million to upgrade and improve that intersection. Still, it will not operate at acceptable level of service C. However, the City Council, as part of the 2012 draft circulation element, has already identified that as an impacted intersection with a statement of overriding consideration. In summary, the deletion of the Melrose Drive from circulation element will have no impacts, I should say no measurable impacts or significant impacts on the city or regional VMT. It will have no impacts on the roadway segments in the study area. 6 out of the 12 study intersections will operate at unacceptable level with Melrose in. That will be reduced to actually 4 intersections. From those 4 intersections, 2 intersections are impacted that I briefly explained about, and 1 intersection will remain with significant impact even with the mitigation measures. We presented the findings of our studies to the Planning Commission on June 21st, 2021. On a vote of 6-1, the Planning Commission offered no recommendation specifically about keeping or deleting a Melrose Drive on the circulation element. However, they thought that it's premature to make this decision now, and they decided to recommend that we fold this project with the ongoing general plan update, circulation element update, that is being processed. I need to note that the City Council direction to amend the circulation element and remove the Melrose was given to the staff before we started preparing general plan update and circulation element update. And on a technical note, the circulation element update that will be done in the next year or so using SANDAG Series 14 will not substantially offer any new information that's not available to the council at this time. Traffic patterns and travel distribution patterns will not substantially change. I anticipate that the new model will offer significantly lower traffic volumes on our roadways. However, in terms of distribution patterns, I do not anticipate to see any changes in that area. Having said all these, we are here tonight recommending that the City Council update the city's general plan to remove the Melrose Drive extension from Spur Avenue to North Santa Fe Avenue from city's circulation element. And our reason for these recommendations are based on 3 factors. One is simply cost. This project cost estimate is at $45 million as of 5-6 years ago. By the time we get into the construction, assuming we can clear the Federal Department of Interior hurdle of Section 4F clearance, this project will be in neighborhood of $65–70 million. We do not see any realistic path forward to fund this project with the funding sources available and known to us at this time at the regional level and the state and federal levels. The second one is the issue of the land acquisition and the issue of the parkland conversion. And I can share with you, based on personal experiences working on a couple of those projects, that the process is rather arduous going through the Federal Department of Transportation. There's no guarantee that at the end they're going to give us the approval. And especially the projects that do not have local support or they have local opposition to the project, the federal authorities take those very seriously into consideration, and they do not easily approve parkland conversion for transportation purposes. We should anticipate similar difficulties in this process. The other one is that even if we can come over all these hurdles, that we can somehow magically find $60–70 million to build the project and build the local consensus and get the concurrence and approval from the federal authorities. There's a concept, as you all know, in the economy that we call lost opportunity cost. That all these effort and all this money and all these resources we believe can be better spent on other priorities throughout the city. And so for these 3 reasons, we would like to make a recommendation to the City Council for consideration that we remove the extension of Melrose Drive from Spur to Santa Fe. And that's the end of my presentation, and I will be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Baladori. I understand we do not have any public members who wish to speak that are by Zoom.
We do not have any registered Zoom speakers to speak on this topic.
So this is the time for public input from statements from the public on this particular item. If you wish to comment on this item, please approach the podium and give your name. You have up to 3 minutes to speak. I see no one rising. I'm going to go ahead and close this portion of the public hearing and go to the City Council. Councilmember Rodriguez.
Thank you for that very well put presentation. When I first got elected, actually, when I was knocking on doors, I knocked on over 4,000 doors in my district. And when I got to Jeffrey's Ranch, every other door, that was #1 question is, what do you think about Melrose Extension? At that time, like, I don't even know what the heck the Melrose Extension is. And so I started digging into it, and oh, what a mess. And there's a lot of passionate residents that were not for that development. And so I said, I'm going to dig into this. I'm going to ask staff. I'm going to look into the paperwork, and reviewed past council meetings where Mayor Sanchez was pretty adamant about not moving forward on it. But for me, what frustrated me the most was there was a lot of development applications that were submitted, and as a part of their EIRs and looking into the future, because it was on our circulation element, like this is going to be built, even though we didn't have the money, it assisted development because they thought at some point this would be built, right? And when I looked at the project and I looked at our budget and I talked to the then city manager, I realized quickly, I'm like, this is the dumbest thing to move forward on. We could take this 40 million at the time, now I'm hearing 70 million, and we can reinvest that in other areas of our city to do way more benefit than going this crazy route. And so I did a council agenda item, and Councilmember Keim was a little reluctant, but moved forward, and we decided to remove this. Traditionally, I would be totally against removing roads from being built because there's a reason why they were being built, but I think this was a unique circumstance that will create a lot of benefit for the future of our city as we move on our general plan and our updated circulation element. And so I'm in full support of this. I also sit on SANDAG as the regional representative for the city of Oceanside, and we're moving on a $170+ billion regional plan. And that board likes to remove roads and likes to remove infrastructure. And so it's been a tug of war fighting and advocating for as much resource for North County as possible that we need, including the 76. Because at this point, there's no outlined funding sources in the next 15, 20 years to expand the 76 to the 6 lanes that it was designated for, which the last estimates I received is about $10 million per mile. So that's about a 10-mile stretch. We're looking at about $100 million to create a 76 in the way it was intended for the portion that's in Oceanside. And so, you know, potentially the elimination of projects like this that really don't create the impacts and benefits necessary to the community, we can reallocate those funds or create other opportunities to expand college and the intersections that we just discussed. So anyway, I'm done talking. I wanted to give that kind of history from my perspective, but I would like to make a motion to support staff's recommendation on item 16.
Okay, that's a motion to adopt the resolution. I'd like to go ahead and second that. No, Councilmember Weiss?
I'd just like to say that when we remove segments off of the overall circulation network, whether it's Melrose, whether it's Paula Road extension, whether it's the RDO interchange, whether it's Haymar from College to El Camino or Cannon Road connection, there's going to be an increase in traffic at some point in time. And to me, when you support removing those roadway segments and connectors, you forfeit the right to complain about traffic.
Thank you. And just a couple of comments myself, because I think I've had the longest history on the dais with this. When I first saw this, it made no sense to me because the natural movement of Melrose, to me, actually naturally slowed down traffic, which if it were straightened, and that is cutting through homes and also the park, would have meant a straight through, and it would have increased traffic, because when you have a straight road and a wide one, you tend to increase speed. And so then we would have to do traffic calming, and it just never made sense to me. I like Melrose. I like the way that it moves along. To me, it reminds me of a country road, and I think that Oceanside is really precious in that sense, that we have different character in different parts of our community. So no other requests to speak. Please vote.
Motion approved, 4-1. Weiss, no.
Thank you very much. We'd like to go back to our public comments on off-agenda items.
Our last 2 speakers were Patty Kirschwam, to be followed by Graham Fraser. So please come on down.
Wasn't it Fellner, Ms. Fellner?
Ms. Fellner, I believe, already talked.
Okay.
Yeah.
My apologies.
Patty, whenever you're ready.
Okay, thank you. This is your lucky day. Boy, we don't have too many people here. Or my lucky day or whatever. Anyway, first of all, thank you, Mr. Rodriguez, for the suggestion of a discussion. And with all respect to the attorney, I think with the Brown Act and everything, action, unable to do an action item is different than a discussion. So, I don't have any voting, but I think allowing a discussion on certain things is a good idea. Okay. Second, Ms. Meeks isn't here, but I would urge you, out of respect, I would urge you not to allow a variance on that particular issue that she's talking about, overnight parking, again, on the street. And instead, if there's a need, find another solution. Okay. On 9/11, evidently the chief of police did plan something, which is a good thing. Oceanside's had a long history with Pendleton, as we know, and it deserves the respect of a 9/11 and the 20th anniversary of Afghanistan, as well as mention of the 13 military people who were slaughtered, basically. I would have suggested maybe the Marine Corps band, something definitely at the Beach Stadium, which is our public venue. And with all respect, I would like to see more military people speaking and perhaps less politicians, because that's kind of how we got into the situation. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you, and I did want to include that it's actually the fire department as well as the police department, so we will have firefighters and police officers there. Thank you. Next person.
Mr. Fraser?
Thank you for hearing me again. I'm here on another topic. It's about our kids this time. And I know you're not the school board, but I'm going to talk a bit about the school board. I'm here to sound the alarm that our children are being indoctrinated into a Marxist communist way of thinking under the guise of education. I believe that's our public schools here in Oceanside, and probably most of the schools, public schools in California. It's a real concern of mine. I think it will be the greatest civil rights issue of our time. I really do. I'm an American by choice. I left a more socialist country 40 years ago and resided in Oceanside almost since that time. I've had a business here and I live the American dream. And I see that American dream slipping away for our kids because of this socialist activity that's being taught mainly via the teachers' union. Teachers' unions throughout this country dominate education. I don't know if you know that. They really dominate education. And they are run by Marxist socialist thinking. You know that the teachers' associations, that's the California Association, the National, by the time all the funds that are collected from the teachers from their dues, they garner $1.6 billion. $1.6 billion. And that buys a lot of politicians and a lot of votes. And I believe that's what's happening with our school board members here. I think that the teachers' unions are putting these people in, not only here, but all over. And it's a great concern. It should be a concern to all citizens. And what's happening, our kids are going to become socialists, and then they're going to become voters in this city and other cities. And that's all that's ever going to get elected, the councils or anything else. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Fraser. Okay, we also we're now up to item number 19. This is adoption of ordinances. Did you want to title it?
I will go ahead and title it. Is my microphone working now?
It is working
great.
now.
Okay, this is the adoption of an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Oceanside, California, amending Chapter 33 of the Oceanside City Code and Article 36 of the zoning ordinance.
Move adoption. There's a motion and a second. Please vote.
Motion approved, 5-0.
Okay, now we're at the end of the meeting, so I'm requesting general council member comments, and Councilmember Rodriguez had requested to be recognized to speak on and have a moment of silence for our 9 Marines, 2 sailors, and 2 soldiers who perished in the line of duty.
Yeah, I want to have a moment of silence, and I plan on reading the names of these service members, these heroes that paid the ultimate price. Many of them were from 2nd Battalion, 1st Marines. I served with 2-1 in Fallujah, and we lost several Marines over a couple firefights. And so this is really near and dear to my heart. I think since the 26th. I've been doing a lot of praying, a lot of crying. I've been very angry. And we are a Marine town. And I think it's our responsibility to take the lead in honoring these Marines. So I appreciate the suggestion on the plaque and those sort of dynamics. So I'm going to read their names, and I just want to do a moment of silence and afterwards. So I'll go through and read their names first, and I'm going to kneel down so you can hear. Staff Sergeant Darren T. Hoover, who's 31, he's from Salt Lake City, Utah. He's a Marine. Corporal Hunter Lopez, 22 years old, from Indio, California. Corporal Dagan W. Page, 23, from Omaha, Nebraska. Corporal Humberto A. Sanchez, 22, of Logansport, Indiana. Lance Corporal Jared M. Schmitz, 20, of St. Charles, Missouri. Lance Corporal David L. Espinoza, 20, of Rio Bravo, Texas. Lance Corporal Riley J. McCollum, 20, of Jackson, Wyoming. Lance Corporal Dylan R. Mirola, 20, of Rancho Cucamonga. And Lance Corporal Kareem M. Nikoy, 20, of Norco, California. Navy Corpsman Maxton W. Sovic, 22, of Berlin Heights, Ohio. Army Staff Sergeant Ryan C. Noss, 23, Carrington, Tennessee. Marine Sergeant Johnny Rosa Picardo, 25, of Lawrence, Massachusetts. And Marine Sergeant Nicole G., 23, of Sacramento.
This meeting is adjourned. The next regularly scheduled meeting is Wednesday, September 15th at 3:30 p.m. for closed session. Thank you.